So a few of you have heard from Barry during the Q&A that we had over lunch, but we have slotted Barry in for a quick special appearance, and he was actually a bit of a surprise appearance because we were able to add him to the lineup just at the last minute. So I like to call it a special appearance. So anyway, I'd like to introduce Barry Williams of the Lone Fathers Association.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I'm just Barry Williams. I'm just an ordinary person, no one special, but I do run a special organisation, and I just want to say I'm very fortunate to have an organisation like that, because I'm going to shock you. We have a 37% women membership in my organisation around Australia, and these women are all for men's rights, every one of them. Well, when I say men's rights, they're for equal rights. And I have my National Secretary sitting down there. I've seen her challenge the judges, I've seen her challenge the Child Support Agency, and I've seen her challenge even the courts on decisions made. So that's the sort of people that I've got working with me. And we couldn't have been a success over all these years without these people. But I'm going to say a few things which you might not like. One of the worst reasons why Australia's in family court is in the situation it is that men don't stand up and be counted. We have asked, we've run rallies in Canberra outside Parliament House, and we got like 109 people, which is nothing. The women's groups run them, they get thousands, and that's what it is. They've got a following that they want to be top dogs, and that's why they're top dogs now, but mainly because the system is bent. And we've got to get that system unbent and get back to reality that the child has the right. It's not the parents, it's the natural rights of the child to have contact in Australia with both parents at all times, regardless of what happens, unless, of course, that one parent is direct having violence on the child or sexual assaults on the child or something like that. But getting back to my organisation, yeah, we've been going 44 years. We were averaging around 31,000 calls per annum through our system. We dealt with a lot of suicides. We've dealt with over 400 suicides that I can remember with, and I personally have dealt with around 40 of them. And it's not nice to be taking ropes from around men's necks and stopping them from burning themselves up in cars and things like that. And 11 of these were in Canberra alone, which I got credited by the Chief Minister of Canberra, John Stanhope, who said Barry Williams has saved more men's lives than anyone we know. And it was only because they rang me and I was quick and I spent time and spent a lot of hours with each of them, showing them that life was still worth living and they still had a chance to be able to see their kids. Not all of them got to see their kids, but the majority of them did. And that's the service that we do around Australia. We have a 24-hour call-in, although we do ask people, unless they're not thinking of taking their lives, to deal with us between 9 and 5 in the day, because I'm up all hours of the night, and I know a lot of my staff are up. When I say staff, we're all volunteers, and we have been for the 44 years. You want to know how I earn a living? I'm a marriage celebrant, so I see the fracture on one side and the goodness on the other side. But I've been a lobbyist in the Parliament House, and I got many successes through John Howard. John Howard was a champion of champions in family law in the Australian Parliament. I met with John in 2005, and I said, John, there's nearly 1 million children in Australia that I can show you that have not been able to see their dad or their grandparents or their extended families, and it's got to stop. So he said, I got a bit of a cold, excuse me. He said, I will check it out. And he checked it out and he called me in and he said, you're quite right. He said, we're going to have a parliamentary inquiry. And so he they selected Kay Hole from Wagga Wagga to chair this meeting, a parliamentary inquiry, and it was going well. We were going for shared equal time, and as Philip Ruddock said, Barry, you've been putting up for shared equal time submissions to the Parliament since 1980, which I was, because in 1979 California introduced the first shared care laws in the world, and within no time at all it spread to 37 states. So I thought, well, if they can have it, we can have it. Anyway, when Kay chaired the meeting of equal shared time, the Democrats and Labor crossed the floor and voted against it. They didn't want it, so what we got was a shared equal responsibility, which meant that the father and the mother have the right to make decisions on what religion, what school they go to, how their life's going to be and stuff like that. But the courts were given the right then to also, where they thought possible and could work, to give shared equal time. And they did that, but you couldn't give shared equal time with someone living in Sydney and the other parent living in Brisbane. But the court started to give shared equal time, and as I said before, there was more blokes got shared equal time with their children than ever in Australia's history. But I was warned by someone, and don't get me wrong, don't belong to any party because I'm a federal lobbyist and I can't belong to any, but I was told by a Labor minister, a female Labor minister, and I'm not going to mention her name, not to get too cocky about it, because when we get in, we're going to overturn it. Now, they couldn't overturn that law without a real reason, and the feminists started making a lot of excuses that shared care was no good for children, no good whatsoever. They had to have 2 school bags, they had to have different beds, they had to have different everything to go to school and stuff like that. And so the government put out a 5 million or a 9 million, I just can't remember what it is, money for people to do research into it. And as Bettina said, there was a lady called Jennifer McIntosh, a well-known feminist journalist, that wrote that it was no good for men to have the children to come and stay overnight with the father, and they should not see their child they should not have overnight access to their 4-year-old, which was absolutely ridiculous. But there was a second player in it too, and his name was Professor Chisholm. Now, Professor Chisholm was Judge Chisholm before he became a professor after retiring. And as a lobbyist, I was called into Robert McClellan, the Attorney General's office. And he said, Barry, I called you in to ask you, would you share your organisation's statistics on family violence with Professor Chisholm? And I said, well, Robert, what do you call family violence? He said, well, it's mainly when the mother accuses the father of violence against her or the children. Okay? And I said, well, that doesn't mean that they're guilty. You've said accused. And I was shocked to hear him say that we don't care if there's 300 innocent men jailed in jails, we will jail them if we save one mother's life. So I said, no, Chisholm is not getting our statistics. We stand by those statistics. They are very good and done by a real researcher, Mr. Jim Carter. Anyway, Professor Chisholm rang me and wanted to have a meeting with me. He came into my office in Kingston and he said, I believe you have these statistics and you told Robert you wouldn't share them with me. I said, well, Professor, what's your view on violence? He said, well, exactly the same thing. When the mother states that the father's violent, we must assume he is. And I said, you can't do that under Australian law. I was virtually told, well, we can do what we like, sort of thing. And so there I went in and spoke to the Senate about this thing and told them how it would affect men and that, but it was no avail. They went ahead and did it, and that's what's called the Amendment to the Family Violence Bill 2011, which is causing all the havoc and that now. And even men who were given their shared care in that time, through those allegations, they've lost that time of access, and they're fighting, and it's costing them hundreds of thousands of dollars. But gentlemen and ladies and gentlemen, we have to stand up, as Bettina said. We have to be smart. We have to get as smart as them, and we have to call for the abolishment of the family court and have a commission where you go in and a criminal, you go before court and have a jury or something to look at who's lying and who's not. And we must bring in punishment for lies in Australia. And that's the only way that we're going to get anywhere. Quickly, I want to say we're planning an international world conference, or trying to, next year in Canberra in Australia, and the biggest organisation in the world of this type is Fathers, Families and Children's Coalition of the USA. They're coming out shortly to speak with me, and we're trying to plan this and to bring the government and the departments up in front and charge them for the denial of the rights, the paramount rights of the child and abuse of the child, because we believe denial of access to one parent is a child abuse. I apologise for my cold. I've got a sore throat, and I just want to say, without scolding, I've got a lot of awards. I've got the British Empire Medal from the Queen, the OAM of Australia, President Obama's Volunteer Achievement Awards, and I was a volunteer of the year at ACT, but I'm just an ordinary person fighting alongside other organisations, and I notice another good organisation here is Dads for Kids, Warwick Marsh. We worked very close together over the years, and he helped me run my 3 national conferences. They've all been held in Parliament House. 2005, 2007 and 2010 was our last one. And this international one will be bigger than any if we can get it going. I thank you, and thank you for listening to me.